You ever had one of those mornings where you wake up, grab your coffee, step outside, and the world you thought was steady just snaps in half? That was me. Thursday morning, sun barely up, still in pajama pants, coffee steaming in my hand, when I heard the sound of chainsaws on my land. My land. The deeds in my name, signed and sealed. I walk out to the porch and see this oak tree, 2 centuries old, taller than any church steeple in town, splitting in half like someone had snapped a bone. I'm James Rourke, and I moved to Willow Creek Estates, North Carolina, to heal after a divorce that felt like someone had pulled my heart out with pliers. I wasn't chasing noise or drama. I wanted dirt under my nails, quiet mornings with my 2 mutts, Rosie and Duke, a little garden, some peace. But peace doesn't last long when you live under a homeowners association run by a woman who thinks she's the Queen of England. Her name? Meredith Sloan. Platinum hair, white Mercedes, pearl smile that could cut glass. The kind of woman who says, "Bless your heart," while handing you a $500 fine for painting your shutters the wrong shade of blue. She hated me from day one because my house didn't fit her cookie-cutter dream world. Mine was older, stubborn, had history in its bones. And I refused to repaint shutters that had been there since the Civil War. She lost that fight, but her smile told me it wasn't over. And she kept coming. Fines for my pickup parked overnight, for my dogs barking at a delivery guy, even for a bird feeder I bought at Walmart. I paid them, tried to keep my head down, but Meredith was the type that, when you don't bow, she sharpens her knives. And then came her community improvement project, a road that would shave 90 seconds off the drive to the country club. 90 seconds. Her plan was to carve that road right through the back of my property, through the meadow where my uncle taught me to fish, and where that oak tree had stood since Andrew Jackson was president. And when I didn't sign off, she didn't ask again. She just sent bulldozers at dawn. I ran out barefoot, waving my arms like an idiot, yelling, "What the hell are you doing?" The foreman just shrugged, held up a clipboard. "HOA authorization," he said. Meredith's signature at the bottom like she owned me. I said, "This is my land." He said, "Not my problem, pal." And then the dozer bit into that oak, and the sound it still lives in my chest. Like a rifle shot. I documented everything, photos, calls, emails, but by the time I'd filed a police report, half the meadow was gone. And Meredith, instead of apologizing, sent me an email that read, "Check bylaw 14.2c. I'm sorry you're upset, sweetheart. See you in court." 2 days later, I got served with a lawsuit. She wanted $50,000, claimed I'd delayed the project and cost the community money. And just like that, the whisper campaign began. At the hardware store, folks who used to chat with me suddenly studied their shoelaces. At the farmer's market, people turned away like I was contagious. Meredith went on the neighborhood Facebook group and wrote one of those passive-aggressive posts, so heartbreaking when one selfish person threatens the safety and property values of us all. Praying for a peaceful resolution. She never said my name. Didn't have to. For the first time, I understood what it meant to die socially while still breathing. But then a knock on my door. Lionel Green. Retired postal worker, wiry guy with more fight in him than most men half his age. He was the only HOA board member who'd ever stood up to Meredith, and it cost him plenty. She fined him over a mailbox he'd had for 15 years. Lionel slid a casserole onto my counter and a folder into my hands. "You'll want to see this," he said. Inside were 3 years of HOA meeting minutes, unedited, and clear as daylight. Meredith had been running the association like her personal ATM. Contracts handed to her brother-in-law's landscaping company at inflated rates, budgets that didn't match the invoices, fines selectively enforced against anyone who dared to cross her. Lionel leaned across my table and whispered, "She's sloppy, James. Sloppy because she thinks she can't be touched." That night, I went digging deeper. With my engineering background, spreadsheets were my native language. And what I found, nearly 30 grand unaccounted for, invoices that didn't match, payments routed through shell companies connected to her real estate firm. It wasn't just about my oak tree anymore. It was fraud. I filed a countersuit, posted the records online with one simple caption, "Transparency matters." Within hours, neighbors who hadn't spoken to me in months started messaging. "Wait, why did her brother-in-law get 40 grand for landscaping? Why do the numbers not add up?" Screenshots flew faster than she could delete. Meredith panicked. She called an emergency board meeting to expel me from the community. I showed up with my lawyer and a stack of papers. She presented me as a liar, a troublemaker, someone who spread misinformation. And when she smirked at me, I asked one question in front of 60 neighbors. Has anyone here actually seen the contractor's insurance? The room went dead quiet. I held up the document. Their insurance had expired before the bulldozers ever touched my land, which meant if anyone had gotten hurt, any kid on a bike, any neighbor walking their dog, the HOA members themselves would have been personally liable. You could see the color drain from the treasurer's face. That was the moment the tide turned. From there, it became war. Door to door, night after night, Lionel and I collected signatures for a recall election. And the stories poured out. Jerry, fined $300 because grass clippings blew into the street during a windstorm. Mrs. Patel, an elderly widow who'd lost her home after Meredith buried her in fines for a 6-inch fence and wildflowers she'd planted herself. Her son showed me the eviction notice. She had a stroke 3 days later. Meredith had flipped that house for 80 grand profit. That's when it hit me. This wasn't just about my oak tree. This was about a bully who'd built her empire on fear and silence. 2 weeks later, we had more than enough signatures. Meredith tried everything, settlement offers, smear letters, even had her brother-in-law vandalize my truck. But when the screenshots of her text messages to him leaked, scare him, make him regret this, she was finished. Election day felt like something out of a movie. The clubhouse was packed, news crews outside, neighbors lined up to vote. 91% turnout, unheard of for an HOA. When the results came, the room erupted. 289 votes to recall the board. And as the cheers filled the air, a deputy sheriff stepped forward, warrant in hand. He read the charges, embezzlement, fraud, elder abuse, and put Meredith in handcuffs right there in front of everyone. You could have heard a pin drop as the metal clicked around her wrists. She walked past me, eyes cold, pearls shaking on her neck. I didn't say a word. Didn't need to. And just like that, the bully was gone. We rebuilt from there. Rewrote the bylaws so no one person could ever abuse them again. Published all finances online. Reversed fines that had been nothing but harassment. And in the meadow where the oak tree had fallen, we planted 50 saplings in a grove named after Mrs. Patel. A memorial for those who came before us. And a promise that nobody in our community would ever be crushed like that again. Now, I'm not telling this story because I think I'm a hero. I'm just a guy who got mad about his trees. But sometimes, standing up for something small exposes something much bigger. And when you shine light on corruption, you realize how many people were waiting for someone to say enough. So let me ask you, what do you think? Was I right to fight? Or should I have taken the settlement and walked away? Have you ever seen an HOA or any community power go this far off the rails? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I'll be reading every single one. And if you want more real stories about ordinary people standing up against bullies, make sure you hit subscribe. Because trust me, this isn't the only Meredith out there.